After Jesus was born in Bethlehem, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem saying, "Where is the one who is born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose and have come to adore him." The refrain of the popular Christmas hymn, "O come, all ye faithful," instructs us 3 times to follow the example of the wise men. "O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord." Adoration is the deep love and respect paid to someone we worship, usually a divine being. Most versions of the New Testament don't use the word adore in reference to our worship of God. They translate the Greek word proskuneo as worship. In Greek, proskuneo literally means to kiss the ground in reverence before someone. The Greeks reserved such an honor only for gods. With this in mind, adore seems to be the better translation for proskuneo. And for this talk, I'm going to use adore for it. A couple of quick points on adoration before I reflect on why it is important to adore God. First, adoration is reserved only for God. This is what Jesus reminds Satan when Satan tries to tempt him. Jesus says, "It is written, you shall adore the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve." Such exclusivity of adoration ensures that every area of our life is under God's authority and control. Second, adoration and praise are not the same thing, though they are closely related. Adoration goes far beyond praise and gets to the heart of how we see God. To truly adore, we must let go of ourselves and, like David, be willing to become a fool for God. Now let's go to the answer of the title of this reflection. Oh, why should we adore him? While there are many reasons for this, let me offer 3. Firstly, we adore Jesus for who he is, and not just for what he has done or is going to do for us. Think about this. Would we continue to adore God if tomorrow God's miraculous mercy and wonderful blessings disappear from our lives? Would God still be worthy of our worship? For example, did the God we adore cease being God when the pandemic struck and our prosperous life became history? Do you and I only adore God for what he can do for us? I hope not. And I do hope, like Habakkuk, we can all truthfully say, though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. Secondly, we worship God because we become like what we worship. The psalmist, while speaking of idols, says, "Those who make them have become just like them." Our idols can be physical deities or money, our jobs, or even movie stars. If we adore them above God, our lives will become meaningless and worthless as the idols we pursue. But when we adore God and give him priority, we can hope to become like God. And as a bonus, all the other things we pursue will be received when we adore God. Jesus promised us, "Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Thirdly and finally, when we adore the Lord, our daily activities become acts of worship. Only when our deepest love and adoration is reserved for our Savior will all other loves find their proper place. Yes, by adoring God, we are able to really begin loving our families, colleagues, and friends. Let me end offering an interesting perspective on adoring God. Robert Cumming, a distinguished art historian and critic, stood in London's National Gallery studying an exquisite painting by the Italian Renaissance master Filippino Lippi. It was the depiction of Mary holding the infant Jesus on her lap, with Saints Dominic and Jerome kneeling nearby. While Cummings had no doubt about Lippi's skill, he felt the proportions of the picture seemed slightly wrong. The hills in the background seemed exaggerated, and he felt that they would topple out of the frame. The two kneeling saints also looked awkward and uncomfortable. But right as he stood there, critiquing the painting, Cummings had a revelation. It suddenly struck him that the problem might be his perspective. The painting had never been intended for a gallery. Lippi's patron had commissioned it to hang in a place of prayer. The distinguished art critic Cummings dropped to his knees in the public gallery before the painting. He suddenly saw what generations of art critics had missed. From his new position on his knees, Robert Cumming found himself gazing up at a perfectly proportioned piece. The foreground had moved naturally to the background, and the awkwardness of the saints, like the painting itself, had turned into grace. It was not the perspective of the painting that had been wrong all these years. It was the perspective of the people looking at it. What about our perspective as we come to adore Christ the Lord? Are we seeking Him like the wise men for who He is, or only for what He is going to do for us? May we seek Him with the right perspective as the Lord of all creation. Oh, come, let us adore Him, Christ the Lord. Amen.